The Awakening. Dr. Elena Reeves squinted through the thick, scratched plexiglass of her helmet, her breath fogging the visor as she exhaled sharply. The harsh, unfiltered sunlight of Titan's thin atmosphere cast long shadows across the icy terrain, creating a landscape of sharp contrasts and hidden dangers. "Are you seeing this, Control?" she whispered, her voice barely audible over the constant hiss of her suit's life support systems. "Affirmative, Doctor," came the crackled reply from millions of miles away. "We're receiving your feed. Can you get any closer?" Elena inched forward, her magnetized boots crunching softly against the frozen methane surface. Before her, jutting out of a massive ice cliff like the prow of some impossibly ancient ship, was a structure that defied explanation. It was clearly artificial, its smooth, dark surface standing in stark contrast to the jagged ice surrounding it. Intricate patterns swirled across its surface, pulsing with a faint blue-green light that seemed to dance and shift as she watched. It's beautiful," Elena breathed, reaching out a gloved hand towards the structure. "I've never seen anything like it. The material, the design, it's not just alien, it's impossible." As her fingers brushed against the surface, a jolt of energy surged through her suit. Elena stumbled backward, alarms blaring in her ears as her systems went haywire. "Dr. Reeves." "Elena, do you copy?" Control's voice was frantic now, but Elena could barely hear it over the cacophony in her helmet. The structure before her had come alive. The pulsing light intensified, spreading outward from where she had touched it. The patterns began to shift and move, coalescing into recognizable shapes and symbols. "Oh my God," Elena whispered, her scientific mind racing to process what she was seeing. It's a language, a message." Before she could say anything more, a beam of intense light shot out from the structure, enveloping her in a cocoon of energy. Elena felt herself lifted off the ground, her suit's systems completely overwhelmed. In that moment, suspended between the ice and the stars, Elena Reeves's mind exploded with knowledge. Images, concepts, and information beyond her wildest imaginations flooded her consciousness. She saw the rise and fall of civilizations, the birth and death of stars, the very fabric of the universe laid bare before her. And then, as quickly as it had begun, it was over. Elena collapsed to the ground, gasping for breath, her mind reeling from the experience. "Control," she managed to croak out, her voice hoarse and trembling. Send everyone. We've just made first contact." The news of the discovery on Titan spread like wildfire across the globe. Within days, the small moon of Saturn had become the focal point of humanity's collective attention. Governments scrambled to assert their claims, corporations salivated at the potential profits, and religious leaders debated the implications for their faiths. Dr. Elena Reeves found herself at the center of a storm she was ill-prepared to weather. As the only person to have directly interfaced with the alien structure, she became an overnight celebrity, her face plastered across every news channel and social media platform. "Dr. Reeves, can you tell us more about what you experienced?" a reporter shouted, thrusting a microphone towards her face as she tried to make her way into the United Nations building in New York. Elena sighed, pushing past the throng of journalists. "As I've said before, I'm still processing much of what I saw. What I can tell you is that we're dealing with technology far beyond our current understanding. The potential implications for humanity are staggering." Inside, the General Assembly Hall was packed to capacity. World leaders, scientists, and military officials from every nation had gathered to hear Elena's report and decide on humanity's next steps. As Elena took the podium, a hush fell over the crowd. She looked out at the sea of faces, each one a mix of anticipation, fear, and hope. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, her voice steady despite her nerves. "What we've discovered on Titan is not just evidence of alien life. It's a legacy left behind by a civilization that existed millions of years before our planet had even cooled." Murmurs rippled through the audience as Elena continued. The structure contains vast amounts of information, scientific knowledge, historical records, and technological blueprints that could revolutionize every aspect of our society. She paused, taking a deep breath before delivering the news that would change the course of human history forever. But more than that, it contains a warning. The civilization that left this gift for us, they're gone. Wiped out by a threat so great that they chose to scatter their knowledge across the galaxy in the hope that someone, someday, might be able to succeed where they failed. The hall erupted into chaos as Elena's words sank in. Shouts and arguments broke out among the delegates, each trying to be heard over the din. Order! Order! The Secretary General bellowed, banging his gavel frantically. As the noise subsided, he turned to Elena. Dr. Reeves, are you saying that this alien civilization left us weapons, a means to defend ourselves? Elena shook her head. Not exactly, Mr. Secretary General. What they left us is knowledge, the foundations of technologies far beyond our current capabilities. Faster than light travel, energy generation on a cosmic scale, manipulation of matter at its most fundamental level. With this knowledge, we could build ships that could traverse the galaxy, colonies that could survive in the harshest environments, defenses that could withstand forces we can barely comprehend. And the threat? A voice called out from the crowd. Did they leave information about what destroyed them? Elena's expression darkened. Only vague references. Whatever it was powerful enough to wipe out a civilization that spanned multiple galaxies. And it's still out there. The silence that followed was deafening. The implications of Elena's words hung heavy in the air, each person present grappling with the enormity of what they had just learned. Finally, the Chinese ambassador stood, his face a mask of determination. Then we must prepare. We must use this knowledge to defend ourselves, to ensure the survival of our species. Nods of agreement rippled through the assembly. But the U.S. President raised a hand in caution. And who controls this technology? How do we ensure it's not used for one nation's gain over others? Arguments broke out once again, the specter of global conflict looming large. Elena watched with a growing sense of despair as humanity's petty differences threatened to derail what could be its only chance at survival. Enough, she shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. All eyes turned to her, surprised by the outburst from the normally reserved scientist. Don't you understand? This isn't about nations or ideologies anymore. This is about the survival of our entire species, of all life as we know it. We don't have the luxury of fighting amongst ourselves. We need to come together, to pool our resources and our brightest minds, to face this threat as a united human race. Her words seemed to hang in the air, their weight pressing down on every person present. Slowly, reluctantly, heads began to nod in agreement. The Secretary General stepped forward, his face grave but resolute. Dr. Reeves is right. We stand at a crossroads in human history. The path we choose today will determine not just the fate of our nations, but of our species and perhaps all life in the galaxy. He looked out over the assembly, meeting the eyes of each delegate in turn. I propose the formation of a new body, a global initiative to study, develop, and implement the technologies left to us by our alien benefactors. This body will operate independently of any single nation, with oversight from the UN Security Council. Murmurs of assent grew throughout the hall. The U.S. President stood, followed quickly by the leaders of China, Russia, and the European Union. We agree, the U.S. President said, her voice firm. Let this be the dawn of a new era of human cooperation. Together, we will build a fleet unlike anything the universe has ever seen, a testament to human ingenuity and determination. As the assembly erupted into applause, Elena felt a weight lift from her shoulders. There was still much to be done, countless challenges to overcome, but for the first time since her encounter on Titan, she felt a glimmer of hope. The awakening had begun. Humanity was about to take its first, tentative steps into a larger, more dangerous universe, and Elena Reeves would be there, at the forefront of this great endeavor, helping to forge the destiny of her species among the stars. The Great Endeavor. The sprawling complex of the International Space Coalition, ISC, stretched across the New Mexico desert, a testament to humanity's newfound unity and purpose. Dr. Elena Reeves stood at the window of her office, watching as another massive component was slowly transported towards the assembly area. 5 years had passed since the discovery on Titan, and the world had changed in ways Elena could never have imagined. Nations had set aside their differences, pooling resources and expertise in a race against time. The knowledge left behind by the ancient alien civilization, which they had come to call the Precursors, had revolutionized every field of science and technology. A knock at her door pulled Elena from her reverie. "Come in," she called, turning to see Admiral Zhang Wei, the military liaison to the ISC. "Enter." "Dr. Reeves." Zhang nodded, his face grave. "We've received another report from the deep space listening posts. The anomaly is growing." Elena's heart sank. They had detected the first signs of the approaching threat 2 years ago, a disturbance in space-time that defied explanation. Whatever was coming, it was big, and it was getting closer. "How long?" she asked, dreading the answer. "At current speeds, we estimate contact in 18 months, John replied. "We're running out of time, Doctor." Elena nodded, her mind racing. "Then we'll have to accelerate the timeline. How's progress on the Prometheus?" Zhang's expression softened slightly. "Why don't you see for yourself? She's ready for your inspection." The cavernous hangar bay seemed to stretch on forever, its space filled with a flurry of activity as workers and machines scurried about. But all of that faded into the background as Elena laid eyes on humanity's greatest achievement. The Prometheus hung suspended in a cradle of energy fields, its sleek lines and gleaming surface a sharp contrast to the utilitarian surroundings. At over 1 kilometer in length, it dwarfed anything humanity had built before. But it wasn't just the size that took Elena's breath away. It was the knowledge of what the ship represented. "She's beautiful," Elena whispered, reaching out to touch the hull. Unlike the cold metal of traditional spacecraft, the Prometheus's surface felt warm, almost alive under her fingers. "And deadly," Zhang added, a note of pride in his voice. "The weapons systems are unlike anything we've ever conceived. If this threat is anything physical, the Prometheus will be ready for it." Elena nodded absently, her mind already racing ahead to the challenges that still lay before them. "What about the drive system? Have we solved the radiation problem?" Zhang's expression tightened. "That's still an issue. We can't seem to fully contain the energies involved. At current levels, any human crew would be dead within hours of activation." "Damn," Elena muttered. It was the one hurdle they hadn't been able to overcome: how to harness the incredible energies of the precursor drive system without killing the very people it was meant to protect. As they walked the length of the ship, Elena's mind whirled with possibilities. The precursor knowledge had given them the blueprints, but translating that into something humans could actually use and operate had proven to be an enormous challenge. "What about AI control?" she suggested. "If we can't put humans on board, maybe we can." Her words were cut off by a sudden, violent tremor that shook the entire facility. Alarms began blaring as workers scrambled for safety. "What the hell was that?" Zhang shouted over the noise, steadying himself against a nearby console. Before Elena could respond, a voice crackled over the facility speakers. "Attention all personnel. We are experiencing a Level 1 emergency. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill." Elena and Zhang exchanged a look of horror before sprinting towards the control center. As they ran, Elena's mind raced with possibilities, each more terrifying than the last. Had the anomaly somehow jumped closer? Was this the end they had been dreading? The control center was a scene of controlled chaos when they arrived. Technicians and scientists huddled around monitors, their faces pale with shock. "Report," Zhang barked, his military training taking over. A young lieutenant snapped to attention. "Sir, We've detected a massive energy surge from the Titan site. It's like nothing we've ever seen before. Elena pushed her way to one of the monitors, her eyes widening as she took in the readings. This can't be right, she muttered. These energy levels, they're off the charts. Suddenly, the main view screen flickered to life, showing a live feed from the Titan base. Elena gasped as she saw the precursor structure, dormant for 5 years, now pulsing with blinding light. As they watched, the light coalesced into a beam that shot straight up into space. "What's it doing?" someone whispered. Elena's mind raced, connecting dots that had eluded her for years. It's activating," she breathed. The structure, the message, the technology, it wasn't just a gift. It was a beacon. Zhang turned to her, his face a mask of confusion and growing dread. A beacon? For what? Before Elena could answer, another tremor shook the facility. This time, it was accompanied by a sound, a deep resonant hum that seemed to vibrate through their very bones. On the view screen, the beam from Titan intensified, and then, in a flash of light that momentarily blinded their sensors, something appeared in orbit around Saturn. As the image cleared, Elena felt her heart skip a beat. Hanging in space, dwarfing even the massive rings of Saturn, was a ship. No, not a ship, a fleet. Dozens, perhaps hundreds of vessels, each as large as a small moon. "My God," Zhang whispered. Are these the precursors?" Elena finished, her voice filled with awe and a touch of fear. "They're back." The control room erupted into chaos as people shouted orders, questions, and theories. But Elena stood transfixed, her eyes locked on the screen. After a moment, she noticed something odd about the precursor ships. They seemed to be changing, shifting and reforming, as if adapting to some unseen parameter. And then, with a jolt of realization that made her blood run cold, Elena understood. The precursors hadn't returned. At least, not in the way they had imagined. These ships, this fleet, it was automated. A fail-safe, left behind eons ago, programmed to awaken when the beacon was activated. But without the precursors to guide them, the ships were adapting based on the only information they had, the data from the Titan structure, data that had been filtered through a human mind. "They're becoming like us," Elena breathed, her mind reeling at the implications. The ships, the technology. It's evolving, merging precursor designs with human concepts. Zhang stared at her, then back at the screen. Is that good?" Elena shook her head slowly. "I don't know. But I think we just changed the rules of the game." As if in response to her words, the precursor fleet began to move. Not towards Earth, as they had feared, but outward, towards the edges of the solar system, towards the approaching anomaly. They're going to face the threat, Zhang realized. But how do we control them? How do we communicate? Elena's mind raced, possibilities and theories colliding like stars in a galactic dance. And then, with a clarity that almost frightened her, she knew what they had to do. "We don't control them," she said, her voice steady despite the gravity of her words. "We join them." She turned to Zhang, her eyes blazing with determination. "Get me to the Prometheus. Now." As they raced back to the hangar, Elena's mind was already several steps ahead. The radiation problem, the control issues, she saw now that they had been approaching it all wrong. They didn't need to adapt the precursor technology to human limitations. They needed to adapt humans to the technology. The Prometheus awaited them, no longer just a ship, but a bridge between two civilizations separated by millions of years. As Elena approached, she felt a familiar energy begin to build around her. The same energy she had experienced on Titan. "Dr. Reeves," John called, a note of warning in his voice. "What exactly are you planning?" Elena turned to him, a small smile playing at the corners of her mouth. "Something either brilliantly insane or insanely brilliant. Either way, Admiral, I think you're about to witness the next phase of human evolution." With those words, she stepped forward, placing her hand on the hull of the Prometheus. The energy surged, enveloping her in a cocoon of light. As consciousness began to fade, Alina had one last, crystal-clear thought. The great endeavor was not just about building ships or developing technology. It was about becoming something more, something that could face the challenges of a vast and dangerous universe. And in that moment, as human ingenuity merged with precursor knowledge, the true starborn fleet was born. First contact. The vastness of space stretched out before the starborn fleet, a tapestry of stars and cosmic dust that seemed both familiar and alien to Dr. Alina Reeves. She stood on the bridge of the Prometheus, but stood wasn't quite the right word anymore. Alina's consciousness was intertwined with the ship itself, her thoughts dancing through its neural networks, her senses extended to encompass its entire being. It had been 3 months since the merging, 3 months of adapting to this new form of existence. The fleet of hybrid precursor human ships moved as one, with Alina and the Prometheus at its heart. Each vessel was crewed by volunteers who had undergone a similar transformation, their minds and bodies augmented by precursor technology to withstand the rigors of deep space and faster-than-light travel. Status report. Alina communicated, her thoughts rippling through the fleet's shared consciousness. Captain Yuki Tanaka, once of the Japanese Space Agency and now the augmented commander of the cruiser Sakura, responded instantly. All systems nominal, Doctor. The anomaly is holding steady at the edge of the Kuiper belt. No change in its energy signature or size. Alina processed this information in microseconds, comparing it against the vast database of precursor knowledge now at her fingertips. Something wasn't right. The threat they had detected, the force that had wiped out the precursors millions of years ago, should have been more active. Prepare for closer approach, Alina decided. I want detailed scans of every subatomic particle in that thing. As the fleet began to move, Alina felt a familiar presence brush against her consciousness. Admiral Zhang Wei, now integrated with the Chinese dreadnought Guanyin, had been her rock throughout this strange transformation. Alina, Zhang's thoughts carried a note of caution. We should consider attempting communication before we get any closer. If this is a sentient entity. Alina acknowledged the wisdom in Zhang's words. They had prepared extensive first contact protocols, drawing on both human diplomatic experience and precursor records of alien encounters. But how does one communicate with something that had remained utterly silent and motionless for months? Agreed, Alina responded. Let's start with standard EM broadcasts across all frequencies. Then we'll move on to gravitational pulses and quantum entanglement signals. For hours, the starborn fleet bombarded the anomaly with every form of communication they could devise. Alina watched, her augmented senses picking up the slightest fluctuations in the space around them. But the anomaly remained stubbornly silent and still. Just as Alina was about to call for a cessation of attempts, something changed. It was subtle at first, a slight shimmer in the fabric of space-time around the anomaly. Then, with a suddenness that sent shockwaves of alarm through the fleet's shared consciousness, the anomaly began to move. Evasive maneuvers. Zhang's thoughts boomed through the network. But even as the ships began to scatter, Alina realized it was too late. The anomaly expanded in the blink of an eye, engulfing the entire fleet in a sphere of utter darkness. Alina felt the Prometheus shudder around her, its systems straining against forces she couldn't comprehend. For a terrifying moment, she thought they were going to be torn apart. And then, as suddenly as it had begun, it was over. The darkness receded, and Alina found the fleet, in a place that defied description. Gone were the familiar stars and planets of their home system. Instead, they floated in a vast, swirling nebula of colors Alina had never seen before, punctuated by structures that seemed to defy the laws of physics as she understood them. Where are we? Yuki's thoughts carried a tremor of fear that echoed through the entire fleet. Before Alina could formulate a response, she sensed something, a presence vast and alien, brushing against the edges of her consciousness. She instinctively threw up mental barriers, feeling the rest of the fleet do the same. And then a voice, if it could be called that, resonated through their shared mindspace. Visitors. Unexpected. Evaluation required. The words weren't in any language Elena recognized, but somehow she understood their meaning perfectly. She sensed confusion and alarm rippling through the fleet, but also a spark of excitement. This was it. True first contact with an alien intelligence. Drawing on all her diplomatic training and the wealth of precursor knowledge at her disposal, Elena carefully crafted a response. We are representatives of humanity and the legacy of the precursor civilization. We come in peace and in search of knowledge. Who are you? There was a pause that seemed to stretch for eternity. Elena felt the entire fleet holding its collective breath. Humanity. P-O-E-Q-U-R-Z-U-R-S. D-E-S-I-G-N-A-T-I-O-N-S unknown. Elaborate. Elena's mind raced. How do you explain the entire history and nature of your species to an utterly alien intelligence? She decided to start with the basics. We are a sentient species from a planet we call Earth. We discovered technology left behind by an ancient civilization. The precursors. This technology allowed us to travel here. We seek to understand our place in the universe and to protect ourselves from threats we don't yet comprehend. Another pause, shorter this time. Comprehension, HHADV. Purpose, survival, acceptable. Elena felt a wave of relief wash over her, quickly followed by a surge of curiosity. May we ask who you are? What is this place? The response came faster now, as if the alien intelligence was becoming more accustomed to their form of communication. We are the architects. This is DAENEXUS. All PTHNTERZCTER. Images flooded Elena's mind. Glimpses of civilizations rising and falling, of galaxies forming and dying, of the very fabric of reality being woven and unwoven countless times. She gasped, overwhelmed by the sheer scale of what she was witnessing. The Nexus, she breathed, her thoughts echoing through the fleet. It's some kind of interdimensional crossroads. And the architects, they're its caretakers. But even as she marveled at this revelation, a cold realization settled over Elena. Wait, she communicated to the alien presence. If this is where all paths intersect, then, are you the threat we detected? The force that destroyed the precursors? The response was immediate and carried a weight that made Elena's augmented mind reel. In Kiori seat. We preserve. We do not destroy. The hunger comes. We can't still be it. Fear, primal and overwhelming, surged through the fleet's shared consciousness. Elena fought to maintain control, to keep her thoughts clear. The hunger. What is it? How can we fight it? But the architect's response brought no comfort. The hunger consumes. It grows. It can't be fought. Only escape. As if to punctuate these ominous words, the nebula around them began to churn and darken. Elena sensed a buildup of energy unlike anything she had ever encountered. Ne ex euvis compromisiti. The hunger a poro hhs. You must flee. Panic threatened to overwhelm the fleet, but Elena's training kicked in. How? She demanded. Show us the way. In response, a pathway of shimmering light appeared before them, cutting through the chaos of the disintegrating nexus. Follow. Quickly. Warn others. Prepare. Elena didn't hesitate. All ships, form up and proceed along the designated path. Maximum speed. As the starborn fleet plunged into the unknown, leaving the collapsing nexus behind, Elena's mind whirled with the implications of what they had learned. They had made first contact, yes, but not with the enemy they had expected. Instead, they had glimpsed something far more terrifying. a force of cosmic destruction that even beings as powerful as the architects feared. The next phase of their journey was clear. They needed to return home, to warn Earth and prepare humanity for what was coming. But as the fleet hurtled through dimensions unknown, Elena couldn't shake the feeling that they were now part of something far larger than they had ever imagined. The stars themselves seemed to blur around them as they raced against time, carrying with them knowledge that would reshape humanity's understanding of the universe and their place in the galactic stage. The great dome of the Galactic Conclave stretched above Dr. Elena Reeves, its transparent surface offering a breathtaking view of the star-studded void beyond. But Elena's focus was not on the cosmic tapestry above. Instead, her augmented senses were attuned to the cacophony of thoughts and emotions swirling around her. 5 years had passed since the starborn fleet's return from the Nexus. 5 years of frantic preparation, of pushing the boundaries of precursor technology, of forging alliances with civilizations humanity had never dreamed existed. And now, here they were, standing before the assembled representatives of 100 alien races, pleading their case. "And that is why we come before you today," Elena concluded, her thoughts resonating through the neural interfaces that connected every being in the chamber. "The hunger is real, and it is coming. We must stand united if we hope to survive." A moment of silence followed her words, broken only by the soft hum of the chamber's life support systems. Then, like a dam bursting, a torrent of thoughts and voices erupted. "Preposterous. How can we trust these newcomers? The hunger is nothing but a myth, a bogeyman used to frighten children." Elena felt a surge of frustration, quickly tempered by the calming influence of Admiral Janeway, who stood beside her. His physical form, like hers, had been further altered by their continued fusion with precursor technology. They appeared almost ethereal now, their bodies shimmering with barely contained energy. "Patience, Elena," Zhang's thoughts whispered in her mind. "Remember, many of these races have existed for millions of years. Change does not come easily to them." Elena nodded, forcing herself to remain calm. She scanned the assembly, noting the various reactions. The Zixthar, a race of crystalline beings, seemed intrigued by her words. The Mercian, feline warriors from the galactic core, appeared skeptical, but not dismissive. But it was the Eldari, ancient and aloof, who concerned her most. Their representative, a being of pure energy named Zirath, floated forward. "We have heard tales of this hunger before." Zirath's thoughts echoed through the chamber, silencing the others. "In the deepest archives of our race, there are whispers of a force that devours entire galaxies. But these are stories from a time before time. Dr. Reeves, what proof can you offer that this threat is real and imminent?" Elena had been prepared for this question. With a thought, she activated a holographic display in the center of the chamber. The assembled aliens gasped as they saw the image of the Nexus shimmering and beautiful, followed by its violent collapse. "This footage was captured by our fleet during our encounter with the architects," Elena explained. "We have shared this data with your scientists. They can confirm its authenticity." Murmurs of concern rippled through the assembly. The Zixthar representative, a being named Crystal Song of Morning, chimed in with a sound like tinkling glass. "The data is genuine," it confirmed. "But even if this hunger exists, how can we hope to fight something that the architects themselves fled from?" Elena smiled, a gesture that still felt strange on her transformed face. "That, honored representatives, is where humanity's unique perspective comes into play." With another thought, she changed the holographic display. Now it showed the starborn fleet in action, its hybrid ships performing maneuvers that defied conventional physics. "By combining precursor technology with human ingenuity, we have created ships and weapons unlike anything the galaxy has seen before," Elena continued. "Our fleet may be small, but it is highly adaptable and incredibly powerful. With your help, with the combined knowledge and resources of all our civilizations, we believe we can create a force capable of standing against the hunger." The chamber erupted into debate once more. Alina could sense the tide of opinion slowly shifting. The Mercian representative, General Kurshar, stepped forward, his tail lashing with excitement. The humans speak with wisdom beyond their years, he growled approvingly. The Mercian have long awaited a worthy challenge. If this hunger wishes to devour our worlds, let it choke on our claws. Support began to build. The Sixthar pledged their advanced computational networks. The Eldari, while still cautious, offered access to their vast archives of ancient knowledge. Race after race stepped forward, offering resources, technology, and warriors for the cause. But just as victory seemed within reach, a new voice cut through the chamber like a knife through silk. How convenient, it purred, dripping with sarcasm. That these humans, so new to the galactic stage, should discover a threat that only they can save us from. The speaker was Kandor, representative of the Obsidian Concordat, a shadowy coalition of races known for their isolationist policies and rumored involvement in less than ethical activities. Is it not strange? Kandor continued, his oily thoughts slithering through the neural network, that no other race has encountered these architects, that no one else has witnessed this so-called hunger. Perhaps what we see here is not a plea for unity, but a cleverly disguised bid for galactic dominance. Alina felt her heart sink as doubt began to creep back into the minds of the assembly. She opened her mouth to respond, but Zhang beat her to it. You speak of convenience, Xandor. The Admiral's thoughts boomed through the chamber. Yet is it not also convenient that you would dismiss a threat simply because you did not discover it first? Are your people so arrogant as to believe that the universe holds no surprises for you? Xandor's eyes narrowed, his scaled skin rippling with anger. Watch your words, human. The Concordat has stood for eons while your kind was still huddling in caves. Enough. The thunderous thought came from Zirath of the Eldari, the energy being pulsed with barely contained power. This bickering serves no one. Whether the hunger is real or not, the humans have shown us something invaluable, that we are stronger together than apart. The ancient alien turned to face Alina and Zhang. We will need time to verify your claims and to discuss the implications among ourselves. But know this, you have opened a door that cannot be closed. The galaxy will never be the same. As the assembly began to disperse, Alina felt a mix of hope and trepidation. They had made progress, yes, but she couldn't shake the feeling that they had also made powerful enemies. Later, as she and Zhang stood on the observation deck of the Prometheus, watching alien ships of all shapes and sizes depart from the Conclave station, Alina voiced her concerns. We've started something big, Zhang. Maybe too big. What if Xandor is right? What if we're leading the galaxy into a war it doesn't need to fight? Zhang was silent for a moment, his transformed features unreadable. Then, slowly, he turned to face her. Alina, he said softly, do you remember what you told me? All those years ago on Earth, when we first activated the Prometheus. She nodded, the memory crystal clear despite the years and transformations she had undergone. I said we were about to witness the next phase of human evolution. Exactly, Zhang replied, a smile playing at the corners of his mouth. But I don't think either of us realized just how far that evolution would go. We're not just changing humanity, Alina. We're changing the entire galaxy. He gestured to the stars beyond the viewport. Out there, right now, 100 races are going home to tell their people about Earth, about humans. They're discussing our ideas, adapting our technologies. Whether the hunger comes tomorrow or in 1,000,000 years, the galaxy will be ready to face it, together. Alina felt a warmth spread through her, a feeling of purpose and rightness that transcended her physical form. You're right, she said, her voice filled with renewed determination. This is bigger than us, bigger than humanity. This is about the future of all life in the universe. As they stood there, watching the stars, neither Alina nor Zhang noticed the small, sleek ship that detached itself from the shadows of the station. On board, Xandor of the Obsidian Concordat opened a secure channel. "It is as we feared," he hissed to an unseen recipient. "The humans know too much. They must be stopped before they upset the balance we have worked so long to maintain." The response came back, cold and emotionless. "Understood. Initiate Protocol Omega. The starborn fleet must not be allowed to unite the galaxy." As Xandor's ship slipped into hyperspace, the first moves of a deadly game were set in motion. The galaxy was changing, but not everyone welcomed that change. In the shadows between the stars, ancient powers stirred, determined to keep their secrets hidden, no matter the cost. The starborn fleet had taken center stage in galactic politics, but the real battle was just beginning. And somewhere, in the vast, cold depths of space, the hunger continued its relentless advance, unaware and uncaring of the dramas playing out before it. The final frontier. The bridge of the Prometheus was eerily quiet, the usual hum of systems and chatter of crew replaced by an oppressive silence. Dr. Elena Reeves stood at the center, her form flickering with barely contained energy as she processed the flood of incoming data. It had been 2 years since the Galactic Conclave, 2 years of feverish preparation and political maneuvering. The starborn fleet had grown, incorporating ships and technology from a dozen alien races. But so too had grown the shadow of opposition, the Obsidian Concordat working tirelessly to undermine their efforts at every turn. And now, it seemed, time had run out. "Report." Elena's thoughts echoed through the ship's neural network, reaching every member of her hybrid human-alien crew. Captain Yuki Tanaka, her body now more machine than flesh, responded instantly. "Long-range sensors confirm it, Doctor. The hunger has entered the galaxy. We're tracking multiple anomalies, each capable of consuming entire star systems." Elena felt a chill run through her transformed body. This was the moment they had prepared for, the crisis they had warned the galaxy about. But were they truly ready? "Alert the Coalition fleet," she ordered. "All ships to battle stations, and get me a channel to Xandor. It's time to see if the Concordat will stand with us or against us." As the Prometheus and its fellow ships surged into action, Elena couldn't help but reflect on the journey that had brought them here. The discovery on Titan, the merging with precursor technology, the encounters with the architects, and the myriad alien races of the galaxy. It all seemed like a lifetime ago. The view screen flickered to life, revealing the scaled visage of Xandor. The alien's eyes narrowed as he regarded Elena. "So, human," he hissed, "it seems your prophecies of doom have come to pass. What would you have us do?" Elena met his gaze steadily. "The hunger is here, Xandor. This is no longer about politics or power. This is about survival. For all of us. Will the Concordat join the fight?" For a long moment, Xandor was silent. Then, to Elena's surprise, he let out a low, rumbling laugh. "You never cease to amaze me, Dr. Reeves," he said, a hint of grudging respect in his voice. "Very well. The Concordat will fight. But know this, when this is over, if we survive, the galaxy will not simply return to the way it was. Change is coming, whether we wish it or not." As Xandor's image faded, replaced by tactical displays showing the approaching hunger, Elena allowed herself a small smile. "Change is already here," she murmured. The next hours were a blur of frantic activity. Ships from every corner of the galaxy converged on the front lines, a dizzying array of designs and technologies united in common purpose. The starborn fleet took the lead, their hybrid vessels serving as the tip of the spear against the encroaching darkness. But as the battle was joined, it quickly became clear that even their combined might was not enough. The hunger was unlike anything they had ever faced, a force of pure entropy, consuming energy and matter alike, growing stronger with each star system it devoured. "This isn't working." Admiral Zhang's thoughts cut through the chaos of the neural network. "Conventional weapons are useless. We need something more." Elena's mind raced, sifting through the vast repository of knowledge gifted to them by the precursors and the architects. There had to be something, some key they were missing. And then, like a bolt of lightning, it hit her. The Nexus, she breathed. It's not just a place. It's a focal point of reality itself. If we could recreate it, harness its power. That's insane, Yuki cut in. The energy requirements alone would be astronomical. We'd need to channel the power of an entire galaxy. Exactly, Alina replied, a plan already forming in her augmented mind. And we have a galaxy at our disposal. What followed was the most audacious plan in the history of the universe. Using the Starborn fleet as a coordination hub, Alina directed the combined forces of the galaxy to form a vast, intricate network. Each ship, each station, each inhabited planet became a node in an enormous web of energy and information. As the hunger bore down upon them, consuming entire civilizations in its wake, the defenders of the galaxy poured every ounce of their strength, every scrap of their technology, into Alina's desperate gambit. In the heart of the maelstrom, aboard the Prometheus, Alina felt the weight of countless lives resting on her shoulders. The ship shuddered around her, straining against forces that threatened to tear it apart. Alina, Zheng's voice cut through her concentration, tinged with concern. We can't hold this for much longer. Whatever you're going to do it now. Alina took a deep breath, centering herself. Then, with a thought, she activated the final sequence. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, with a flash that outshone a million suns, a new nexus burst into existence at the heart of the galaxy. The effect was immediate and cataclysmic. Reality itself seemed to warp and bend, the very fabric of space-time twisting to accommodate this new cosmic fulcrum. The hunger, drawn inexorably towards this wellspring of energy, found itself trapped, caught in an endless loop of consumption and creation. On board the Prometheus, alarms blared as systems overloaded. Alina felt her consciousness begin to fragment, the strain of maintaining the nexus threatening to tear her augmented mind apart. Hold on, she cried, both to her crew and to herself. We're almost there. And then, just when it seemed all hope was lost, something miraculous happened. From the heart of the nexus, a new form began to emerge. It was vast and incomprehensible, a being of pure energy and thought. The architects, Alina gasped, recognizing the familiar yet alien presence. The being's thoughts washed over her, filled with gratitude and a profound sense of closure. UAV is UCCED, we eri bui failed, it communicated. The CYTLE is broken. The hunger is contained. As the light of the nexus began to fade, Alina felt a sense of peace wash over her. They had done it. Against all odds, humanity and its alien allies had faced the greatest threat the universe had ever known, and emerged victorious. In the days that followed, as the galaxy began the long process of rebuilding, Alina found herself standing once again before the Galactic Conclave. But this time, she was not there to plead for unity or warn of impending doom. This time, she was there to help shape the future. We stand at a crossroads, she addressed the assembled representatives, her voice carrying the weight of their shared ordeal. We have faced the darkness together and emerged stronger for it. Now we must decide what kind of galaxy we wish to build. As discussions began about the formation of a new galactic government, about the responsible use of the incredible technologies they had developed, Alina felt a profound sense of hope. The threat of the hunger had brought them together, but it was their shared vision of a better future that would keep them united. Far above, in the vast emptiness of space, the Prometheus drifted silently. Its hull bore the scars of countless battles, its systems hummed with energies beyond human comprehension. And at its heart, encoded in its very being, was the story of humanity's greatest adventure. The tale of how a young species from a backwater planet rose to take its place among the stars. The Starborn fleet had faced its final frontier, and in doing so, had opened up a universe of possibilities. As Alina looked out at the assembled aliens, Former enemies now allies, strangers now friends, she knew that their journey was far from over. In fact, she realized with a smile, it was only just beginning.